All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parenting Coach podcast and the Gentle Parenting community on Facebook. I am attempting here to go live on Instagram, Facebook, and record a podcast meeting all at once. So we will see which of these ends up staying around on social media for the longest. Welcome, everybody. My name is Megan Jackson. I am a gentle parenting coach. I'm host of the Parenting Coach podcast and the Gentle Parenting Summit. I am thrilled to be able to join you today in so many different places. Today, I had planned to talk about preparing for a gentle parenting journey. Either you're recommitting to be more committed to really focus on connecting with your children, being a positive, peaceful parent, or maybe you're new to this. But then I also asked in my group if anyone had any questions about parenting that I could make sure I addressed when I went live today. And the questions that came in work perfectly with what I wanted to talk about. So that's great that we're all on the same page. Something I noticed is that when we're parenting, oftentimes we're just thrown into it. And, the kids, they grow so quickly. You can read all the manuals you want. And I've written books and I know some amazing authors, and they generally do help. They are incredibly good resources. But when you're in the middle of it, in the trenches with these children, this child who's struggling, sometimes all that knowledge just goes right out the window and we feel so unprepared. And that's why it really takes being intentional in our parenting, working on ourselves, learning from different experts so that we can feel more confident and have a plan. We practice for emergency drills all the time. And so, when this situation comes up, this is what I do. These are my options. These are what I can do in this situation. And yet as parents, we're like, they're screaming. What should I do? Help. I don't know what's going on. So today, let's talk a little bit about that. When I'm going on a journey, whether it's a vacation or a trip or a parenting journey, when I'm working on a big project for work, I always start with the end in mind. I know where I'm heading. I know where I want to go. So I'm asking you now, either type it in the comments, email me, message me, or think about it. Write this down. Where are you heading in this parenting journey? Have you ever thought about that? What is the big outcome? What do you want your children or child to learn by the time they move out? What knowledge, what feelings, how do you want them to feel looking back at their childhood and the time they spent with you? How do you want them to, what kinds of things do you want them to know or to learn? I did this in a coaching call the other day in my membership program, and we had some great feedback. People said things like they want their children to be kind and empathetic. They want them to learn communication skills, problem solving, some practical things like life skills, cooking, money management. They want their kids to look back on their time as a family with good memories, loving, knowing that we were there for them. What else do you have in mind? I'd love to see you typing away, joining me in the comments. I do see I've got a lot of viewers. Where are you heading in your parenting journey? What is the point of this? It's not just, we get bogged down as parents with the itty bitty details, the school assignment, the project, the vacation, the behavior. And we get so caught up in the tiny details that we lose sight of the bigger picture and what we really want as parents and what we want for our kids. Now, as a family of faith, my faith is a big part of where I'm heading in my parenting journey, what I want for my children as far as education, because we also homeschool. So put all those things down. You need direction in your parenting if you want to be intentional. Okay, so now we know where we want to go, but we need to kind of take a bit of an assessment about where we are. Oh, this one can be a bit tough. I promise you, this is not meant for you to feel guilt in any way. So if any bad feelings, any guilt pops up, please ignore it. Okay, but you do need to take an honest assessment about where you are. Are you on the same page as your parenting partner? That's something you need to know and think about. What are you doing right now? What's working? What isn't? Where do you want, what do you want to change? What is it right now? Because we go through seasons of life. My children are not babies anymore. So I'm not worrying so much. I'm not in the trenches, so to speak, with baby situations. But I do now have teens, preteens, and a little guy. He's about 6. Haven't lost track of how old my child is. So I'm still in that mode, elementary, preteens, middle school kind of age. So it's different now than it was. So we need to stop every so often and assess, what is our situation? What are my priorities now? My priorities a few years ago, before like pandemic and everything, was totally different than when we got, into lockdown. My priorities shifted. What was important then is different. Now I have different goals. So take a minute. You need a starting point. You need to know where you are now. What's important to my family right now in our situation? And I know I pray for all of you. Some of you are going through some tough times. We've got jobs, moving, babies, divorce, sickness, all sorts of things come up. Maybe that is your priority right now. As we move into the holiday season, I know it's October, it's not even Halloween, but there's Christmas stuff out there in the stores. And we sometimes try to add all that on top of what we're already doing. Now, next Saturday on the 23rd, I'm doing a whole workshop. It's free. It's called How to Avoid Holiday Overwhelm and Burnout. So if that's interesting to you, I will make sure I click on the link in my bio. I will make sure I add it to some show notes and comments, but that's a free workshop. So we're going to talk about that, but that's another thing you got to think about. That's another season that we're going through. So you're probably watching and listening and thinking, that's great. I know where I want to go. I know where I am. How on earth am I going to get there? For those of you who are on the right track and everything is going well, please send us your secrets. What are you doing? What do you know that we don't? Because we all have challenges that we're working on. But you see how with the mindset shift, I'm not just randomly parenting these kids with putting out fires every day. I know where I want to go. I know where I am now. And now I can filter out all the distractions of life to say, hey, is that going to help me get where I want to go? Does this event, this activity that my kids want to sign up for, is that actually in line with what we want for our kids? It helps a little to be intentional and have a plan. With that, we do need to deal with the realities of life. And so this is the next part of the conversation where I'm answering some of these questions. That sounds great. I know that I want to be a gentle parent, but I don't know how. Oftentimes, when we think of gentle, peaceful parenting, we think that the kids take control and that we're just going to sit back and be, oh, peaceful, just, oh, no. It takes strength of character. It takes holding the space and being kind and firm. You still need to actually parent. But oftentimes when we know what we don't want to do, okay, I don't want to do timeouts. I don't want to spank. I don't want to punish. But this is what society does. This is traditional parenting. This may have been what you grew up with. And you don't have a replacement. You don't know what to do. And when you're in that situation, how many of you, raise your hand in the comments, put a big, emoji, how many of you fall back on traditional type of parenting when you're stressed? We often are guilty of that. We fall back on how we were raised. We fall back on what we see, what we've read about, what we know, because we don't know any better. That's not wrong. You're human. I give you a big virtual hug and say, I get it. I've been there too. Still struggle with it sometimes. So let's talk about that. I had a really great question in my Facebook group. If you haven't joined us, please do today. It's called Gentle Parenting Community. It's on Facebook. When you click on it, you'll see that it's a group by me. So you'll see my name. You'll know you're in the right place. So join the Gentle Parenting Community. We've had a lot of action and a lot of great questions in there. And one of them, which several people had the same question, was, what do I do? I need to know more about like consequences, either logical, natural, whatever. Like when my kids make a mess of the playroom and they don't clean up, what do I do? I want to be gentle, but I don't know, I fall back on yelling, shouting, timeouts, being more, less gentle than I want to be. That's what we need to talk about. We need some ideas. So I'm going to actually share some practical ideas, but I also want to give you some reflection as well. Often, because we're shifting our mindset from, here's your behavior, you didn't do what you were asked, here's the consequence. In positive, respectful, gentle parenting, whatever label, name you want to give it, what we're doing here is we're coaching, we're collaborating, we're helping come alongside our child to help them to behave better, to do things differently next time. And so it's not a list of punishments and tips and strategies that's not what we do all the time. Sorry, my phone just paused out on me there. It's not that we just have this list of, okay, here's what you do in this exact situation. Parenting is a series of split-second decisions. We have so many needs that need to be met at the same time, right? Your needs as a parent might be to get to an appointment on time that you've booked a year ago, whereas the child right now just wants to play Lego. Whose needs are more important? Well, you're both valuable as human beings, but sometimes you need to get in the car and go. And you can address that afterwards. You can, if you're feeling panicked and stressed, you can get in the car and afterwards say, look, I really understood that you wanted to play. Here's what we can do about it. But you have to make these split-second decisions. So I'm going to give you an example, and we're going to rethink this. We're going to shift our thinking a little. My phone, for those of you on Instagram, I do apologize if I pause a little. My phone keeps wanting to go to sleep, and whoever's got the fix for that, let me know. So say a child has gone out with you for a walk, and either they've refused to bring their coat or they've forgotten their coat. Often as parent coaches, we get the question, well, what do I do about that? What are the natural consequences? What are the logical consequences? And I hate all these labels, because think about it for a second. As a human being, if I went out for dinner with my husband and I either didn't think it was chilly enough or I forgot my coat, what would happen if I went out for the evening with my husband and I didn't bring my coat? A couple options. See, it's all about options. We need, as parents, we need a toolbox. We need strategies. We need a whole list of options here. What could happen? If I was out with my husband, he could shame me and be like, oh, I told you so. I told you it was cold. Next time you'll know better. Really? Am I going to go out with him? I think not. But we do this as parents. How many of you, raise your hand, have actually gone to a child who forgot their lunch? They forgot their book. Well, I told you so. Well, now look at, what are you going to do now? Really, do they need that in the moment? If I did that, I would be so, like, the evening would be ruined. I would not be enjoying my dinner out if I was shamed or embarrassed. He could lend me his coat. or sweater. So then I have the option of being warm and not looking as stylish as I want to. We pre-plan for such things. Maybe I am a forgetful person and this happens all the time. So I keep a backup sweater in the car. And I just wear the backup sweater. Or maybe my husband is thoughtful and he saw me leave without my coat. He paused for a second and thought, I know her. She's going to get cold. I'll just bring it along. And when I say, oh gosh, I'm chilly, he says, you know what, sweetie, I brought it because I knew that that might happen. And I say, thank you. And I make a note to myself to try to be more thoughtful and remember it the next time. Now, this is me as an adult if I've forgotten my sweater, but how would you treat a child if they've done the same? Again, I'm not trying to make you feel bad or guilty for any way you have been parenting, but I want you to shift your thinking. Are we doing consequences for children for things that we do as adults the same? Think about that. Options. If your child has forgotten something, they've left their shoes out and it's going to rain, you could remind them. You could get up and do it with them. You could be playful and make it into a game. You could, and there's several ways to be playful. Oh gosh, the shoes, they're going to get all wet. Let's go get them. Or, oh, I'll race you. Who can get to the shoe first? Or, hey, buddy, let's be a team. You get the left one, I'll get the right one. Let's tuck them into their cozy spot. You could bring the shoe in and just deal with it. Remind them next time. If all of a sudden it's evening and it's pouring and they're like, oh no, I left my shoes outside. It's sweetie, I saw them out there and I brought them in for you. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. That was so kind of you. You could leave them outside and let the shoes get wet. That people say, that's not natural consequence. Now, who is taking the brunt of that consequence? Likely the parent in that situation, because what are you going to do if that's your kid and they've got wet shoes and you need to go out the next day? I mean, yes, they're going to learn their lesson, but you also have to think of you too. Do they own more than one pair of shoe, or is now you've ruined your day? I don't know if that's what one I would like to go with. So you see, we have lots of options. You have to think, what is going to build my child up and help them the next time? So I'm going to list a few strategies and then give another example, a specific one to help whoever it was that asked this great question. Some strategies. I will do a separate whole post on this. I do have a video series on several strategies, so either ask me or I will try to remember to post that. So I've done strategies before, but just a few off the top of my head that work particularly well for children. Playfulness is a great one. Last week's podcast episode, or just they came out on Monday, so just the other day, was with Sarah Moore of Dandelion Seeds Positive Living. And that was all about playfulness and how you can use playfulness as a strategy to get your kids on board. Have fun, bring in the laughter, bring in the joy, lighten the mood. So playfulness is a great one. If you're not feeling it and you're a bit frustrated, that's okay too. Giving choices is a great option. Giving choices really helps with strong-willed children, and helps foster independence. So giving choices, even if it's limited choices, at least they feel like they're in control, because that's where a lot of the battles happen. Being kind and firm. If you make up a decision, if you set a boundary and your child, you can be kind but firm. You don't have to be a pushover because you're a peaceful parent. You also don't have to be harsh and mean about it. You can get your point across in a loving way. Yes, sweetie. Oh, I know you really want to play Lego right now, and we need to get in the car because we're running late. Agreements is one I really want to point out, because a lot of this talk about consequences, punishments, all of these things, they're assuming that you as the parent just arbitrarily are making up these rules. So we're going to come back to agreements in just a minute after I go through the list, because that's a huge one I want to point out. But coming up with some agreements with your child, get them on board, have them have some input into what's going on in your parenting. Give them grace, have a do-over, let them get away with, not get away with it sometimes, just understand the situation. Parents need to be detectives, right? We need to see if my child is overly tired and starving and they're behaving badly. Maybe I just need to work on not the Band-Aid solution, not the getting on top of them for their behavior. Maybe we just need to eat, and I'm going to not deal with the behavior right now. When they're not able to, I'll talk to them about it after, but right now we need to eat, or right now they need a nap. They're behaving because of a certain way. They're communicating with me, so I'm going to give them some grace. Positive affirmations are also really helpful. Talking well to your child. When you're giving compliments, rather than the good boy, good girl, be specific. Let them know exactly what you appreciate about them. But we all want to feel like we matter and that people notice us and appreciate us. So do that for your children. Another great strategy is to ask for help. Little kids especially, but all of them. They sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they're trying to get your attention, especially when you're cooking dinner. And it's because they want to feel needed. They want to get involved in what you're doing. So when you can, have them join you. Right before I did this recording, for those of you who are seeing me on screen, I was painting my front door. That's the lovely color. It's a nice dark green, brighter than I thought, but my 6-year-old wanted to paint the door with me, and I knew I didn't have much time. That's my fault. And gosh, I was really not feeling it today, but I did my best, and I brought him in, and I was able to, repaint over his attempts. But we talked about it, and I helped him learn to go up and down instead of all over the place. And he got a little frustrated at one point because he had washed his brush, and now I was like, well, you got a wet brush. That's not going to help. So we shared a brush, but that was a time of connection for us. So when you can, ask for help. We know from a lot of research that one-on-one time, individual attention is huge. Making sure that you give them your attention, that you're not always on your phone, that you actually turn towards them when they ask for you. That is huge. And listen to them. Children are more likely to get on board. They're more willing to cooperate when they feel heard and understood. So if you're trying to get them to do something, if you're trying to help them to, get on board with getting homework done, get a job, clean their room, hear them first. You've already asked your request and they're clearly not wanting to do it. Find out why. Ask their side of the story. Find out what's going on in their lives or with their feelings, and then work together to make a plan. So I hope that helped. I know I'm going quite long today. I've got so much to say. I will be getting back to everybody in the comments. So if you are joining me live for a video version on Facebook or Instagram, hello and welcome. I'm Megan Jackson, Gentle Parenting Coach. We've been talking about some topics, some tools and strategies you can use to help you in your gentle parenting journey. And I have two last things I want to talk about before I go today. So hopefully you are all still with me, commenting as much as you can. A specific situation came up, and it comes up often in groups. It's about cleaning up the playroom. Okay, so this is something parents, you've got messy bedrooms, they have messy playrooms. And parenting, what I'm suggesting is you need a toolbox. They have a toy box, you need a toolbox of strategies. And we need to shift our thinking from power over them. So rather than making them clean up, it's we have a messy room, they enjoyed their play. How can I work as the parent to coach and guide them to get the room clean. So we want to work together to have the room clean. And looking at my long-term goals as a parent, I want to foster independence, problem solving, good communication. All these things running through our head in that split second decision to be like, I want this room clean. Who's with me? Great in theory, hard in practice. So we've got some options. Again, lots of options for you. If this is a recurring problem, it's going to be a very different approach from a first time issue. And that's something I want to bring up again with the agreements in just a minute. But first time issues are very different from long-term problems and struggles. Because if it's the first time that something's ever come up, even in workplaces and businesses, they make policies, yes, but those policies were made after you realize that you needed them in place. Am I right? Like sometimes something happens at school or at work and you realize, that ain't going to happen again. We didn't like that. We need to make a policy about that. So do you see where I'm going with these agreements? So if it's your first offense, maybe this is a learning opportunity for the whole family. We offer some grace, lots of empathy. We help solve the problem together. And we come back for a family meeting and we say, hey, you know what? That situation is going to come up again. I think we need a plan. We need to know what we're going to do the next time it comes up. We need to know what we're going to do about it. And so this, like, do you see how you have to handle it differently? If it's a long-term issue with playrooms and bedrooms, depending on the age of the kid, we've got lots of options. One option is purge those toys. They really don't need so much. If it's constantly messy, they're likely just dumping it out to find the one toy they actually want. And it's like when you go into a huge, giant toy store and someone says, pick one toy. You're like totally overwhelmed and there's too many options. So if you feel that, maybe you've already done a purge, maybe Christmas is coming, and so this would be a good time of year to do that. Thin out the toys so there's less to have to clean up. Make it easy to clean up. If you personally are the kind of person who wants all the cars in one bin rather than just a big pile, then put a picture of cars on the front of the bin so it's clearly labeled with a picture for those non-readers that that's where the cars go. So we're setting our children up for success. Okay? The other thing you can do is to be playful. Get right in there and help them. Young kids, though they may be capable, are more likely to do things with you. They want to be connected to you. It may be more efficient for each of you to do a separate room, but in all honesty, you're going to probably get more done if you work together rather than separately because they're going to keep coming in and not getting their job done. So work with them. Make it a game. An I Spy game, for example. I spy all the blocks. Can you find all the blocks? Here's the block bin, let's do the blocks only. Or you grab the cars and I'll grab the blocks. Let's make a tower. Can your car knock them down? Whoa, cool. Let's put those in the bin. You're playing with them and the toys are helping to clean up. So playfulness is a great strategy. You can use choices. Which ones do you want to clean up? That side of the room or this side? Do you want to pick up the Lego or the Playmobil? Give them some choice in it. Again, you may need to be kind and firm. You may need to problem solve. Are they starving and you just need to give them a snack? Put on some fun music. Clean the room with music. Clean the room with a snack. Clean the room for them and offer some grace and put them down for a nap. Listen to them. Maybe it's too big of a job and they just didn't know where to start. Another great strategy is to have a picture with what the room looks like when it's finished, because oftentimes, especially with bedrooms, you say, go clean your room, and they say they're done, and you come back and it's not done to your satisfaction. Well, what did you want from them? Take a picture. Go through it. You need to train your children. They don't know what clean your room means. You have to do it with them a few times so that they see, oh, this is what she means by clean your room. Or maybe if you have a child with ADD or ADHD and they, chunk it into little chunks. Okay, all I want you to do right now, sweetie, is to pick the laundry off the floor and put it in this basket. Then report back to me. Okay, I did that. Laundry's done. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. You've done all the clothes. Now let's pick what we're going to pick up next. Now let's only focus on Lego. Let's just get all the Lego into the one bin. Because if they have a messy room, I mean, that's just overwhelming. They don't even, like, their brain shuts down because they don't know where to start. They don't know what they were supposed to do. They'll get playing on it. They'll feel defeated. It's such a big job. So chunk it up. All right. So I've answered this question about playrooms specifically. And if it's a recurring issue now, so if you can, be playful, get in and help them, break it into chunks, and give them some grace. See if there's something else going on that's stopping them, from actually helping you get that done. If it's a recurring issue, we need to come up with a plan. And this is where I really like to think of agreements, because oftentimes families give out, they're looking for strategies. They come to parent coaches and they want, what do I do? What consequences? How do I get my child to do this? Without actually thinking of the impact that it's having on the child. And if you see something coming up often, or you anticipate something could be a problem because you've read about it in books, you know that around this age, this tends to be a general issue that people come up with. You are now going to be an intentional parent. We aren't just parenting on the fly anymore. You want to be intentional in what you're doing. So come talk to your kids, make a plan. Come alongside them and say, look, I anticipate this is a problem, or this has been a problem before. Let's brainstorm what we're going to do about it. How can we prevent it from happening again? And what are we going to do if it does? For my boys, we sat down and we talked about this. I said, what do we do if one of you is running around the house screaming your head off or annoying the brothers? What do we do about it? And so, of course, they give me all their brainstorming of, sell my brother, put them in their room, blah, blah, blah. We talked about our options and then we agreed on what will happen if it does. Homework. I homeschool my boys and we talk about screen time. It's an issue many people have to deal with. Okay, you want screens. We know we need to get the schoolwork done. What are we going to do? So we've agreed that most of the schoolwork and chores gets done before screens and they check in with me. And if not, and they've pushed their limits, then they don't get their screens. It's not that I'm being mean and punishing them. We talked about it beforehand. And now I'm just setting a loving limit. I'm holding the space. I'm not now the person doling out punishments anymore. We agreed on it. Here's what we're going to do. Now I'm just reminding you of something you agreed on. We actually have a poster in the family room that they all signed that said that they will respect each other and the space and each other's belongings. And if not, if you're not being respectful of people's things, then you need to take a time away from them because you're not showing the whole family respect. They agreed to that. So when my youngest is acting up and he's having a hard time, then we go to his bedroom. And I remind him, you signed your name, you agreed to this. So it's not on me anymore. So it's a powerful tool and something I highly recommend once your kids are able to understand a little more. If they're not, talk to your parenting partner. Get a firm plan on what you want for your family, and then just hold that space, hold that limit of what you agreed on beforehand. Now, I have a lot of Christian families that follow me, and so they want to know, is this biblical? And I often get the question, gosh, I have a lot to say today. I often get the question, about, what, but in the Old Testament, God punished people for doing the wrong thing. Have you considered the fact that he told them ahead of time what would happen if they disobeyed? He didn't just, oh, you did the wrong thing, bam, I'm out to get you. He clearly said, if this is what I want from you, this is my standard, this is what I expect, this is what will happen if you don't. He was holding the space. He was being a loving parent, holding that limit, that boundary. You crossed the boundary. I already told you what was going to happen. So now we're just following through with what we agreed on, or what I said I was going to do. He's being consistent. You can be consistent too. You can have your boundaries, have your limits, this is what's going to happen if and when in different situations, and then hold to that. And if you can involve your children and have them brainstorming, even better, because now you're teaching them life skills. We're thinking with the end in mind. We're teaching them how to problem solve. We're teaching them how to negotiate. We're teaching them how to communicate what their needs are. And so it's now we're starting with where we're at. We've got a problem. We know where we want to head, and we can have all these different parenting tools in between to help us get there. So I hope that helped you. I know it was a bit long. We started off talking about our parenting journey and how to start as a gentle parent. We need to parent with the end in mind and be more intentional. And we need to talk about, and I also shared a lot of parenting tools and strategies. So I will put some links in any show notes or comments so that you can find me. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram at Gentle Parenting Coach. My website is gentleparentingcoach.com. I have a free workshop coming up on Saturday called How to Avoid Holiday Overwhelm and Burnout. You can, if Saturday doesn't work for you, sign up and you'll get the replay anyways. And the link is in my bio for that. Take care, everybody, and have a joyful day.